Hello, I'm Ryan Nerd, and this is a video I'm going to talk about some tools I found useful using in creating interactive fiction, specifically in education. So a bit of background. I work sometimes. I'm in Russia. Sometimes I work with kids ranging from about 10 to even up to 17 actually, on English as a second language because I'm native English. And one of the things I use in my teaching is creating interactive fiction to help the kids learn about use of English, creative writing, that sort of thing. So I want to talk about 3 different methods that I've used to create these interactive fictions with them, 3 different softwares, tools, and talk about how I found each, the pluses of each, the negatives of each, and sort of the just general experience of each. So one tool I've used actually the most frequently, and I'll share a few examples of the projects we've done as well. So one of the tools I've used the most frequently is called Twine. Now, Twine's a open source, free to use tool you can find online. It's very useful. You can add graphics with CSS, and you can create more advanced functionality with JavaScript. And it's basically got a very easy to understand branching system that you can implement from the get-go, and you can link passages very easily. And there's a bunch of predefined templates you can use. So in many ways, it's like the de facto software tool that I use when I'm creating these interactive fictions with the kids. Twine is free. They can get a handle on it quite easily and fast, and it is free, and it's quite simple to use. I mean, you can, and it's good in a sense as well because you can really use it in a more sort of modular, incremental way. So you can build something very simple, but also if they want to go really crazy, they can change the background. I can help them with some of the CSS. They learn a bit of that, those soft skills. They learn a bit about CSS, not only basic stuff. It doesn't have to be really anything complicated. And then they learn a bit about HTML tags as well. So if they want to add like H1 for a heading, and it's just basic HTML you can use in there. So Twine's brilliant for that. I'll show you a few examples now of some stories that kids have made. So they tend to make either like science fiction games or often quite funny games, and it's interesting to see what they come up with. So I'm going to show a few examples of those now. So this is the Twine stuff that I've built with students that we've worked with. Like I said, it's the most often used tool that we use. So we've created quite a lot of interactive fictions in this. Let's just look at a typical example. This one's quite a funny one day in the life of Ahmed. So again, this is using Twine. Turn the sound down a bit because it's very loud. This is based on the funny the Gopnik in Russian culture. So yeah, you can add background music. I have to usually do that for them because it's a bit of JavaScript, but it's not usually too hard. And they've created an interesting variety of games. So that's obviously a comedy game I was looking at there. But then there's things like there's quite a few games about cats and things. So let's go cats and sausages. And these, they're just going to create their own graphics. You got those clickable links. It's quite nice. You've got a cat and you need to eat, so they can learn about using language. I can help them with that as well. So let's go to the kitchen. Oh no, I died. So it can incorporate sound at certain points as well, which is quite cool. Let's go to the restroom. It's died. Oh no. And there's another cat game as well, actually, that someone made. And then some of them actually made, there we go, you're given a cat on your birthday. Cats seem to be a popular theme. So again, you can change the background, you can add graphics. They also use Nyan Cat as well. Actually, it's quite funny. That was popular in that session. I think this is probably one of my proudest ones. I think that this Nicholas game. This is quite awesome. So they did the graphics for this. They did the drawing. I chose like a space GIF for them. Put some background music on it. And this is a really cool story. Actually, it's like you're basically the last man on Earth, and it's quite good. Quite an interesting one. So let's fall to another planet. Purple? Oh, livable. Okay. Go to the hut. Is there someone inside? We've got a good ending there. This is good as well because this helps them think about different ways that you can use English. So Twine's a great tool for this. If you want to explore this, it's on my website, chriscopper.co.uk/games, and it's got all the games from 2019 camp, of which we'll be adding more to it soon. Probably be adding creating a link to the summer camp site as well at some point. But yeah, that's Twine. The next tool I'm going to talk about is probably not one you'd think of immediately when you're thinking about interactive fiction, and it's one I've only used on one project so far as a sort of experiment, and that is Coppercube. So Coppercube's a sort of like easy to use 3D engine, and this sort of similar sort of engine to Game Guru, if you've heard of that. So you can build 3D stuff, which is good for it. So in terms of the impressive and wow factor, it can be useful for that. Only thing is, it requires a lot more input from me and a lot more customization to get like text panels coming up and multiple choice. I still haven't figured out the best methods for that. I've only created one game with a group of this, and it became a lot more that I had to be directed by the kids, which there's always an element of in interactive fiction building. I've found that I always have to do something sometimes to polish the project off, but in this there's much more of that. It's much more about being directed by them and just interpreting their ideas. So that's more of an experimental software you could use. It's free as well, Coppercube. I think you can get it on Steam too. It's quite good in the sense that you can do like room building is quite easy, as well as terrain generation, very easy. Obviously Unity and Unreal Engine are good for these things as well, but they're probably a bit too advanced for kids. Unity maybe not so much. Well, they're both advanced really. They're both professional development such solutions, so I've not really used those for that reason. But Coppercube's alright. If you're familiar with any 3D engine, it's quite easy to pick up. But like I said, the drawbacks with it are unless you're got like a 2-week session, they're not going to be able to pick it up as fast. So I'll show an example of a project we built with Coppercube now. So this is what we made. This is quite a recent one we made. So we've got when you go near to someone, I can change the text changes. This is much more experimental at this stage. It's got the wow factor obviously of being 3D, which is good. This is running in browser too, so you can also run stuff in browser, which is quite good. This is something I want to explore much more actually in visual, is perfecting getting these things done. So it's a bit of a spooky atmosphere game. Some areas in web browser though, as I can see, texture errors, but again it's quite an experimental thing we're doing at the minute with this one. So you explore this environment. It's nothing, we only had 2 days to do this, so it's quite simple. Then you go outside and you can, the landscape generation on Coppercube's quite good. So it just says towards people and you have to choose one. Again, user interface could be improved. We need to basically improve quite a lot of things here, but sort of like someone just says there's walking the dog. Then you can choose who you think the murderer is, and if you get it wrong it just restarts. But this is again, this is a much more experimental way of creating interactive fiction. It's more like interactive story in 3D, I guess, but it's something I really want to explore more, and it involves much more work, but it's also got much more of a wow factor, I suppose, in some respects. So we can talk to this guy, but obviously at the minute this current game that we made is quite strange in many ways as well, and we need to really work on it. So you can choose the ending, and then it goes to there. There's another thing I want to experiment a lot more with actually is making it so that these predefined scenes with a camera, that might work actually better than this version I've done here. But again, that's purely theoretical. So, for example, you've got a static camera, characters, and then each branch does it. It's a lot more work, it's a lot more involved, but Coppercube's quite good for that. It's very easy to use. The graphics aren't anything special, they're like PlayStation 2 graphics, but you know, it's still sort of cool. Lastly, we have Tyranno Builder, which is a visual novel builder you can get on Steam. First, quite cheap, so I think it's like 10 quid or something. This is quite cool. Only created one project with this so far, but it's nice that you can have lots of transitions. There's lots of easy to use functionality that you can incorporate. It looks quite nice. It also ports to lots of different formats. You can port it to mobile, port it to web, port it to desktop as an application. And this is one I really want to explore a bit more. It's more of like a bit more like a comic book in some respects, a visual novel. So Tyranno Builder pluses are lots of different effects you can incorporate quite easily, like shake and transitions and stuff. Drawbacks: error messages seem to be in Japanese, so that can be a drawback if you're not native Japanese like I am. But we created this game with it, and I'll talk about a bit about that. And generally, overall, it's just a nice alternative to Twine if you want to explore an alternative to Twine. So yeah, hope that's been informative, and bye. And finally, we're looking at Tyranno Builder games. This is a game which is called The End. It runs as an application on Windows in this version, but you can, I think, export it to web. Just not figured out how. So this is a game. They made the graphics for this. So this is more like what a Tyranno Builder game looks like. You can also save games in this, which is quite cool. Get a new game. So some very loud music on this. So start or don't start. More like buttons. Let's go start. Oof. And like I said, you've got these transition phases like the shaking and stuff, which is quite cool, built in. In a lot of ways, it's similar to Twine. Let's believe that. So they added like these philosophical quotes at the end of it, which is quite interesting, I thought. You can have these nice animations on the quite easily on the start again. Okay, I don't believe this time maybe. There's quite a few. There's about 6 different. Okay, so I'm hiding in the basement. The nuclear bomb's gone off. Let's go out and look for food. Ah, there's a zombie. Let's fight it. It's quite interesting how they added these little philosophical quotes. And then they have the fun of choosing the music and stuff as well. And they made the graphics, so this graphic in the background they made. This is not start. You survive if you don't start. Laziness is the engine of progress. So yeah, Tyranno Builder. It's good for a very graphical experience. I haven't explored it nearly as enough as I need to yet, but that's one of the games we made of Tyranno Builder.